These 5 credit card companies have the highest credit limits, and they're the most likely to give you limits over $30,000. There's nothing that gives you that instant dopamine hit and makes you feel better than hitting that submit button and getting instantly approved for a high credit limit card. So I found 100 credit limit increase data points and reviewed everything by credit card company, type of credit card, starting limit, time to the first increase and time to the last increase, the increase amount, the final credit limit, the credit score, and the number of revolving accounts. And some of these results are shocking, and you're not gonna believe what cards are actually the best for growing your credit limit. 2 banks that most people love to hate ended up at the top of the list for where to go to get the highest starting limit and the highest credit limit increase. And a card that everyone has been telling you was bad beat out Amex and Chase for the highest overall credit limit. Higher starting limits are gonna have a direct impact on how high your credit limit will go over the lifetime of the card. People with starting limits over $10,000 ended up raising up their credit limit to $26,193 on average. Now, I know a lot of you don't like Capital One, but in general, they had the most cards that gave starting limits of $10,000 or more. It's all because their Venture X card showed up 3 times in the section. The Venture X is a Visa Infinite card, which means it comes with a minimum credit limit of $10,000. So you'll never find a person with a low credit limit with this card. And just to back that up, here's a data point for you. I was approved for the Venture X a month ago at a $20,000 limit. I tried applying for a credit limit increase and instantly got approved for $35,000. I regret putting maximum desired limit of $35K. I was really expecting a denial or $10,000 increase at maximum. Well, next time I will ask for a higher amount. It's so confusing because Capital One is well known for holding people back with disrespectfully low credit limits, but for some reason, they decided to turn up the dial to max when they released the Venture X card a few years ago. And when we take things up another notch and only look at cards that start at a $20,000 limit, the Venture X card wins again and appears twice in that section. You know, I actually got approved for the Venture X card, and it's my largest credit limit too, at $25,000. It comes with a minimum starting limit of $10,000 since it's a Visa Infinite card. There's a $75,000 mild intro bonus, and it comes with some game-changing features like 10x miles on hotels and rental cars, 5x miles on flights, and 2x miles on all other purchases, which makes this a legit one-and-done catch-all card. Now, this card could replace 2 or 3 cards in your setup, or you could just run every purchase through the Venture X and still earn great rewards. And Capital One really threw the kitchen sink at this card because they included cell phone protection, lounge access, TSA pre-check, and primary rental car insurance into this card. After reviewing 19 Venture X card approvals, the average starting limit was $18,700. That's crazy. So hit the link below to learn more about how to apply for the Venture X card. But it's not all about Capital One. When it comes to the highest starting limit for all 100 data points, the Amex Blue Cash Preferred had a limit of $31,300. Amex is punching hard when it comes to credit limits and increases, and you'll see a lot more of them coming up. Here's what one person said about Amex. My OCD remains undefeated. In mid-December, I was approved for the Amex Blue Cash Preferred with a starting limit over $31,000. The starting limit was great, but it did not sit well with my OCD. Like the wise members of this board suggested, I waited 91 plus days to ask for a credit limit increase. I asked for and received $35,000 as a new limit. Now, the rule of thumb says to wait 6 months before you request for an increase, but a few banks will give you an increase in half the time. Getting that first credit limit increase can take the longest because you're building a relationship with the bank and they're gathering data points on you. They tend to be the most cautious early on to get a good look at your performance. I know a lot of people like to wait for an automatic increase, but from my experience, you can increase your limit much faster by manually requesting one. Now, based on the data, the median amount of time to get that first increase is 6 months. So that's a great place to mark on your calendar to start looking for an increase. And there really were 2 major groups of banks when it comes to how long they make you wait for that first increase. One set of banks will make you wait 3 months, and another set will make you wait 6 months. Now, of the banks that took 3 or fewer months for the first increase, Amex took that top spot, with Synchrony Bank coming in a distant second with one data point only taking 2 months to increase a limit. And here's what one person said. I opened my Amex Blue Cash Everyday card August 23rd with a $2,000 starting limit. I requested and received my first 3x credit limit increase to $6,000 and 102 days later on December 3rd, and requested a credit limit increase to $19,000 96 days later on March 8th, which is partially approved in the amount of $18,000 for another 3x increase. Just remember, some banks like US Bank still hit you with a hard credit pull just to increase your limit. So always check the language on the website or ask the phone rep to make sure it's just a soft pull. Next, increasing your credit limit fast is so exciting because you're quickly getting noticed for your hard work and the bank is finally showing you some love. Some of these increases can happen in days, not months. And from all of the data points, Discover was basically the only bank to give people month-to-month credit limit increases. That means every 30 days, you could see and increase your credit limit. I found 4 data points from Discover where they increased limits within 1 to 2 months. One Discover customer said, Discover second credit limit increase. My starting limit was $9,500 in October. When my 7th statement cut, I requested a credit limit increase via the app and approved for $2,000. And then another Discover customer said, I got a Discover credit limit increase today at $2,000, and that went from $4,000 to $6,000. And then I had one last month of $1,700, which was from $2,250 to $4,000. So overall, pretty happy with the results. And here's another data point for you. Discover credit limit increase. I received a $2,500 increase on 8/5 and thought there's no way I'll get another one, but I was mistaken. On 9/12, I pressed the button again and got another $2,500, bringing my total limit up to $10,000 even. I gotta say, this is surprising because with most other banks, you always need to wait 3 to 6 months before asking for that next increase. Discover lets you level up even faster than that though. And if you didn't know, many banks like to give you a multiple of your prior credit limit as an increase, and you're not gonna believe how much you can achieve with each increase too. For example, with Amex, if you start with a $1,000 limit, they'll hit you with a $3,000 limit on the first go. Amex likes to operate this way with their rumored 3x limit increase policy. And if you've been scared to ask for a limit increase in the past, leave that fear behind when you're dealing with Synchrony Bank because you can literally jump from $1,000 to over $23,000. And here's what one person found out. I've had a Lowe's card since early of April 23 and it came with a $1,500 limit. I maxed it out building a shed, then I paid it off in full after every few weeks. After seeing some other people get credit limit increases, I gave it a shot. I went online and asked for a $25,000 limit and said, go big or go home, right? And I was instantly approved. Now that's an increase of $23,000, which is the largest data point I came across. And you should know Synchrony issues well over 100 store cards for different companies. But I have to warn you, Synchrony can be cruel. If you apply for too many of their store cards, or you run up your credit limit too quickly, or even mishandle your other credit cards, then they are likely to chase your credit limit down to a super low level or cancel the card altogether. Yeah, they do not play fair. When it comes to consistency though, nobody does it better than Navy Federal. Based on the data, you can always expect a limit increase of either $6,000 or $8,000. That's huge because it's like pulling teeth to get some of these banks out here to increase your credit limit past $2,000. Here's what one person said. Navy Federal Credit Union flagship card went from $8,000 to $66,000. It was 195 days since the last increase. I usually schedule mine for 195 days to be on the conservative side and stick with my own recommendation of waiting at least 190 days, not 181 days. I applied via the browser and I had an instant approval via soft pull. And here's my past credit limit increase history. In January of 2020, starting limit of $10,000. May of 2020, I added $8,000. That brought me up to $18,000. In November of 2020, increased it by $4,000. Then in May of 2021, another $4,000 increase. December of 2021, another $8,000 increase. Then June of 2022, another $8,000. January of 23, $8,000. July of 23, $8,000. And then February of 2024, another $8,000 increase for a total limit of $66,000. Now, of the banks that gave increases over $10,000, Amex showed up 5 times, which is 2 times more than any other bank on the list. Here's what one person said. I wanted to share an Amex credit limit increase success. This card has really grown for me the last several months as I've been able to 3x it twice and then get another nice bump. On July 1st, I 3x'd it again from $9,300 to $27,900. And then October 1st from 27,900 all the way up to 44,500. You know, one thing I love about Amex is they have a page called the Apply with Confidence page where you can see exactly what Amex card you can get approved for with 100% guarantee with just a soft credit pull. I'll leave a link below to this page along with over 60 other cards that will pre-approve you or show your starting credit limit with just a soft credit pull. You definitely need to check that out if you haven't yet. Now, I personally consider anything over $20,000 to be a high credit limit, but I learned from a recent poll that you guys think a $30,000 limit is actually high. There are 17 limits on this list that are over $30,000, so you won't be disappointed. And for limits over $20,000, Amex and Navy Federal both appeared 6 times, and for limits over $30,000, there's a 5-way tie between Amex, Bank of America, Capital One, Goldman Sachs, and Navy Federal. And many people think that they need to be in the 800 club to get those high limits, but that's just not true. However, I found that for people whose FICO score was over 800, the average credit limit was $38,450. So it looks like higher credit scores do correlate to the highest limits. Also, the average FICO score for people with limits over $50,000 was 820, and they had an average of 23 revolving accounts. So that should kill any of those myths that you shouldn't have too many cards. You should have as many cards as you want that you can responsibly manage. What I found out next shocked me. The Apple Card from Goldman Sachs had the second highest credit limit at $80,000. And if you listen to a lot of credit card enthusiasts, that's supposed to be a bad card. The Apple Card gets a bad reputation though for being this low earning college student card with no intro bonus. But really, it should be looked at as a super accessible, mostly 2% flat rate card that comes with a credit limit that grows with you similar to a premium credit card. And Bank of America had the highest credit limit at $96,000. I've definitely seen someone with a Chase Sapphire card that hit $100,000 plus, but that data point was from over a year ago, so I couldn't even include it here. And here's a data point for you. I just decided to request an increase on the Bank of America card that keeps giving me increases. Last one went from $66,000 up to $81,000 on December 15th. I've been getting credit limit increases on it every 3 months like clockwork. So I got increased to $96,000 recently. Now, I have to give the win to Amex for 4 reasons. Number 1, the Amex Blue Cash Preferred card had the highest starting limit at over $30,000. Number 2, Amex consistently lets you get your first credit limit increase fast in the first 90 days. Then number 3, Amex gave the most credit limit increases over $10,000, and that was by a long shot. Number 4, Amex was responsible for giving the most credit limits over $20,000. But you just need to know Amex typically does do a financial review when you ask for more than $35,000. That means you'll need to show a few months of income or link up your bank account and give them viewing access. But a financial review isn't the only thing that you need to worry about with Amex. There is evidence that they are slowly ruining some of their cards. Multiple cards had their annual fees increased by $50 to $100 within the last year, and Amex made a change that made the Platinum Card sign-up bonus harder to hit than ever. So check out that video next to find out what happened to Amex, and thank you for watching.